Hi all, welcome to Leicester Fan TV, the match preview show as Leicester City take on Chelsea at the Bridge. Nothing to play for now for both sides. Leicester City could get 8th by the end of the season. Chelsea, on the other hand, qualify for Champions League after Arsenal got defeated by the Geordies Newcastle. We're going to talk to Rob from the Chelsea Social. We're going to preview the match at the Bridge for tomorrow night's game. Guys, get involved, get your comments in, get your views in. We're going to talk team selection, injury news. And after we've spoke about Chelsea, Leicester, we're going to talk about Jamie Vardy. 10 years to the day. Jamie Vardy signed for Leicester for £1 million from Fleetwood. We're going to ask you your best moments of Jamie Vardy in a Leicester City shirt. As always, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you can find us at Leicester Fan TV. Go and drop us a follow if you can. It's been a up and down season, but that's football. So yeah, please smash a like, please share, please subscribe to Leicester Fan TV if you're new watching tonight on YouTube, and it'd be really much appreciated. So, guys, let's get going then, shall we? And let's get this match preview show on the road.
Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Are you ready for the show? Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. We want your views, we want your comments, so join us live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi all, welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Really hope you're well tonight. Welcome to the match preview show live. If you're watching on playback, get involved. Get your comments in the comment section. Smash a like on the video and the stream if you've enjoyed the show. And get your comments in. Maybe you've got some questions for my guest tonight, which is Rob from the Chelsea Social. Let's get a few good evenings in there. Carmen, hello. Richie, hello. How are you? Sheffield United let us down. Well, Forest could go and do a derby. How you doing, Jack? I'm good, thank you. Jamie Vardy, 10 years at Leicester City is. Ridwan, how are you? Leicester City will win tomorrow night. Well, there's nothing to play for in the Premier League. So it's going to be an interesting one. Will Casper play for Leicester again? He will. He's in goal for the next 2 games. So there's you one answered. Hi, Jack from Sligo Town. Hello. How are you, Dave Gavin? Hope you're well, mate. Guys, if you're watching, smash a like, share, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube and you're new to Leicester Fan TV tonight. Go and follow us on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat at Leicester Fan TV. Right. Let's get this match preview show on the road then, and let's invite my guest in, Rob Pratley from the Chelsea Social. Rob, how are you, mate?
I'm not too bad, thank you, Jack. And yourself?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the show, Rob. I know last time we spoke about Chelsea women and Leicester women, but this time we've moved to the men's side of the game. Tell me about Chelsea's season then, Rob, this season. How has it gone for you guys?
I mean, it feels like one of those seasons that's lasted an absolute eternity. It started back in last August with the actually picking a trophy in the first game of the season with the European Super Cup. It now concludes this Sunday with our 63rd match of the season, meaning we will have played the joint most in Europe with Liverpool. I think by now it's been a slog. I think it's fair to say that. There have been ups, there have been downs. There's been a lot of stuff off the field to contend with, both, in sense of footballing sense, but also in a wider sort of, footballing sphere and a wider sort of operational sphere. And I think, to be honest, everyone's at a point now where they're happy for the season to end. The objective was, I think, a title challenge this year. Obviously, that has tailed off a lot since Christmas for a variety of reasons. Subsequently, the main objective is to finish in the Champions League spaces. That is now done. We need 1 point to finish third between our final 2 games. Again, home against you, home against Watford. I'd be disappointed if we couldn't achieve that. And now it's on to, I think, putting the structure in place to ensure we can close that gap. Because I think, I've said to someone else that Chelsea this year haven't lost games because someone saying Spurs are waiting for us. I'm not worried about Spurs at all. To be honest,
they said that about Leicester.
To be honest, I'm, to be honest with Spurs, I'm as worried. It wouldn't surprise me as much with Spurs if they somehow lost to Norwich on Sunday, because of the nature of the side they are. It would be so typical Spurs to have 2 really good results and then lose to Norwich. But anyway, not here to talk about them. At the end of the day, it's sort of one of those games tomorrow where I think both of us would have liked to have gone into it with something, still to play for. Ultimately, obviously, Leicester can still finish 8th, and that would be a, respectable finish, but it is still outside the European places. But I think, in general, Chelsea have to be quietly happy with how things have gone. We've won 2 trophies this season. There's been a lot of stuff off the pitch. If we'd have perhaps been better from the penalty spot, we might be walking away with 4 trophies in 1 year, and we'd be talking about it being a good, an excellent sort of season, all things considered. Chelsea haven't lost, their ground on opponents because they've not been good in big games. They've lost it because we've had too many draws at home. Things like Manchester United have been a poor rut, draw, Everton draw, Burnley draw. Between those 3 games, we had next year something like 11 and scored 3 times. Like, when you're performing like that and not being that clinical in front of goal, that's sort of the main issue. But I think, ultimately Chelsea fans will be happy to see the end of it, look forward to the new ownership under Todd Boehly, and move on to sort of, on to the next chapter.
How has it been, Rob, since the Roman Abramovich era has now ended at Chelsea? How have you dealt with it as a football club and that in a whole? I mean, it's a massive thing, isn't it? This Russia-Ukraine thing. I mean, it's affected you guys massively in the way you go about week by week in the business, in the running the football club and that. How has it affected you guys as fans? Because at first it was fans couldn't go to games, they couldn't buy match tickets, they couldn't travel. How did it affect you guys from that point up until now?
It's massively, it is still in effect at the moment, because until the deal is officially done, they can't sell, tickets for it. It has massively had an impact on it, because you can tell by, the empty seats in Stamford Bridge that would normally be full, and, just due to the nature of the fact you can't even get a programme at the game, sort of things like that, that would be part of the normal match experience that, are detracted from it. While I completely agree that, sanctions are necessary to put pressure on, I do feel that the sanctions in the state they are, they've been done more because the government wanted to appear tough on something. And by, taking Chelsea Football Club and using them as the scapegoat, they can appear tough on Russia without actually really doing anything. Ultimately, a sale was going to happen as soon as this sort of, this conflict started. The government got in there first and, sanctioned Chelsea before it happened, but I've got no qualm or belief that it wouldn't have happened anyway. Due to what I've been told, Roman Abramovich was considering this as of last summer. This has sort of, sped things up, but it's sort of, not brand new information. And I think, for everyone's point of view, it just needs to get to the end of the year. The new owners need to come in. They've got interesting ideas. I've spoken to some of them. They are, very ambitious people. They're really interesting people. There's a lot of focus on data analytics, which is somewhere that Chelsea do really lack. And, there's optimism, I think, for the future that we can really enhance our commercial side of things, which I will admit that's one element of the club that has particularly been lacking, especially in the Americas, where we should have taken more advantage of the fact we have America's most marketable player in the last couple of years, and also at the same time making astute signings. And I think that's where a lot of Chelsea fans would like to see better business done. Astute signings in the academy are the way forward for the club, rather than splashing out huge amounts of money on players.
Who's been your standout player, Rob, this season from a Chelsea perspective?
It's difficult. At various times, there have been various names. And Mason Mount's had another incredible year, even though, the people on Twitter won't like hearing that. 16 goals and 13 assists in all competitions is nothing to sniff at for a young player. He's getting better and better every year. Reece James is a similar situation. It's no surprise that Chelsea's two big downturns in form have coincided with Reece James being injured. I think probably overall I have to go to Thiago Silva. He's the elder statesman of the squad, but he has consistently been the one player that's really stepped up, has really impressed. I think, has shown leadership at his age and is going to be one of the few members of the back line that are still going to be around next year. I think ultimately, considering his age, you have to factor that into it. He's been immensely good. The other one I'll give a shout to is Mateo Kovacic, because Chelsea, when Kovacic is fit compared to when he's not fit, they look a completely different side in the midfield.
Yes, exactly. Talk to me about the Rudiger move then. Was you surprised that he's now gone to Real Madrid on a free? Or would you have liked to get him down to a new contract and keep him at the football club? Or do you think his mind was like the Yuri Tillemans situation at Leicester, where his mind's in another place and his football head isn't at Chelsea anymore?
I mean, with Antonio Rudiger, I can firstly I'll say I don't think any point is he down tools at Chelsea. I don't think it's fair to suggest that in any way, shape or form. With Rudiger, he's done a lot of interviews subsequently, and it sounds like he fancies a new challenge. Someone saying, that will be one blow, but I'm sure, I'm sure we can find someone else to always start scoring at set pieces against you. But with Rudiger, I think ultimately, if you'd asked me 18 months ago if Rudiger was going to leave, then, I wouldn't have been that, fussed about it, because under Frank Lampard, he was erratic. Under Antonio Conte, he was erratic. He's only really found form in the last, 18 months, especially playing in the back three. Do I think he's a very good player? Yes. Do I think Real Madrid, are getting a good player? Yes. Do I think that it was right for Chelsea not to offer a deal on the cost he wants with the agent fee he wants? Yes, because he's had a history of injuries before, and he's had at least one ACL injury, if not two. Pace is a big part of his game, and if he was to have another serious knee injury, I think, he's turning 30 next year, 31, that would be catastrophic to him. And I think, ultimately Chelsea need to make the decision to move on. They need to find a player of a similar profile and bring them in. But at the same time, it's, a bit of an end of an era this summer with people like Andreas Christensen also going, Rudiger going, question marks over Azpilicueta, question marks over Jorginho. But I think that did need to happen, because if you factor out the Champions League win last summer, which was, an immense moment to me, I'll never forget, and I'm forever grateful to these players. It's been a poor few years for Chelsea in terms of league competition, and it's been disappointing in terms of cup wins. And you have to consider, Yannick Vestergaard, honestly, one of the worst players I've ever seen in the Premier League. The fact I saw him sign, I have seen milk turn quicker than Yannick Vestergaard. But in terms of the Chelsea squad, I think it's time for that development. You've got young players like Mount, James, Chilwell coming through, showing that, we can rely on that academy. And rather spending big money on people coming in, I'd like to see people like Brozier, Gallagher, Ian Matson given a chance, because I can't see how they can do any worse. And usually we found when we trust our own, because Cobham is an elite academy, it tends to work out pretty well for us.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your last game then, Chelsea-Liverpool. It put you guys 3 finals without a win in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Mason Mount hasn't won a final at Wembley for 6 finals. How much of a blow was that to lose to Liverpool at Wembley at the weekend?
In all honesty, it's one of those things that, again, I don't want to sound bitter here, but it's one of those things that on reflection, if the team had gone and played like we did against Leicester last year in the FA Cup final, I'd have been annoyed. Because in that cup final, we didn't turn up. We didn't perform. And, fair play to Leicester. I've got nothing against them. They turned up on the day. They looked like they wanted it more. And, a great goal settled it. I've got no problem. Against Liverpool, Chelsea turned up. And it was a combination of fine margins and profligate finishing. Which, if you wanted to define our season where it's gone wrong in 5 words, you'd probably say fine margins and profligate finishing. If we had, I'd said if we had Mohamed Salah up front in that game, he's probably getting a hat-trick if he gets those 3 Pulisic chances. He scores all 3 of them. And sort of, he's coming out of it. He's ended up... I mean, drink water was a bizarre site. That's something else I could get into. I could go into a whole different, that's a whole stratosphere of Antonio Conte. But, going back to the sort of Liverpool game, I don't think you could ask for much more from the side. I don't think it's as if we didn't play well. It's just we didn't finish very well. And that's been the issue. And I think, you can see in Tuchel's style of play that when we come up in these big games, if we can have that little bit, more quality and that bit more finishing up front and that little bit of edge up front, then, these losses will turn into wins quite quickly. If we were going into finals and playing badly on a consistent basis, or going into finals and being completely outmatched, then I'd be more worried. But, ultimately, for penalty shootouts, I've seen Chelsea win their most important penalty shootout of my lifetime. It was 10 years ago tomorrow. It was 10 years ago tomorrow I saw Chelsea win their most important one. Every subsequent penalty shootout for me is one of those ones I look back on it and I say, well, ultimately, losing on penalties is a lottery. On another day, you win it. On another day, a Liverpool player gets it wrong. Penalties are one of those things that you don't have much, you don't really have control over as a fan. Yep. If we'd have lost it due to individual mistakes or errors, I'd have been more annoyed. But in a game like that, it does hurt to lose 3 finals in a row. I'm not to pretend that, because you have an appetite for winning. In the same way, I'm sure it hurt as a Leicester fan going out in a semi-final of a competition, because a semi-final, I think, is even worse than losing in the final. Because a semi-final, you then have all of those. You watch the final and you think, we could beat this team, or we should be there. I will always say Ryan Bertrand will always get a bloody good reception back at Stamford Bridge for being part of that side in 2012. And I hope tomorrow, if he does get on the pitch at any point, he is remembered for the fact he was part of those.
He's injured.
Fair enough. I hope there are people still around Stamford Bridge that will be there from that time, and I hope they give him the respect he deserves, because he's one of those players that I've had personal experience with the guy. He's a really, really nice guy in football. I do remember that. I do remember that very well. I was actually at uni at the time, watching it with a bunch of Spurs fans, and that first 70 minutes was absolute hell, and that final 20 minutes, I got thrown out of one of the buildings by the end of it. Literally picked up, thrown out of the building. But yeah, there's always been, I think, I've actually always quite liked someone says can't believe Bertrand. You have weird players who've won, trophies, but Ryan Bertrand came in, did part that day. Ryan Bertrand will forever be remembered by me as the man who locked down Iron Robin for 90 minutes, and that's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, no, I think ultimately Chelsea will be there or thereabouts next season. We will make good signings in the summer, hopefully, with the new date sort of approach. And to be honest, I think there's no reason to be upset. In the same way, actually, as a Leicester fan, I'd be quite happy going into next season. I mean, I feel you've probably got a good manager in Brendan Rodgers. I know at times, there's been a bit of Marmite around. I think he's a very decent manager. I think you've got some very good young players. I really like the look of Dewsbury Hall. I think Harvey Barnes is only going to get better. Obviously, elder statesmen like Schmeichel and Vardy are going to need replacing, but you've got Patson Daka, who I think will be better after a year of acclimatising. You've got Kelechi Iheanacho, who I think is a good player. Tielemans is someone who you do need to replace, but I'm sure the scouting network will already be out there. They will be finding someone, to come in for it. And to be honest, the fact you've got a bit of a smaller squad, no European football may help you a little bit next year, because I've always said to people that the Champions League is one thing, because Champions League teams tend to have quite a large squad anyway. But it's when teams first qualify, it used to be for the Europa League and then for the Conference League, the big mistake they make is having a small squad and having a squad where they can't rotate, because it does take it out of you playing Thursday, Sunday, especially when you get towards the, I remember that as well. But it does take it out of you. And I think that's been the one criticism I'd maybe have of Leicester this season, has been the fact there hasn't been enough rotation. And I mean, there must have been some games for example, in the Conference League, in the group stage, where you could have brought through some of the, academy lads. But I'd be quite happy going into next season if I was, a Leicester fan.
Rob, talking about 10 years then, Leicester signed Jamie Vardy 10 years ago. Tell me your best moment of Jamie Vardy as a Chelsea fan, watching him from a neutral perspective, or maybe against Chelsea.
I mean, I've seen him score plenty of times against the top six. I will say, actually, my favourite Jamie Vardy moment, there's probably two of them that really spring to mind. Number one was the year after you won the title and you had that poor season, but you still thrashed Manchester City. Because I remember at the start of the season, people were criticising Vardy, saying, one season wonder, etc., etc. And at the time I was at university and I wrote a newspaper column and I said, Vardy will come up against someone and it will just all click, and you know it will click. Because he's that sort of centre forward. He doesn't down tools. It was after I think the Arsenal bids had come in and there was the rumour he might go and, is he down tools? And I thought it was really disrespectful to suggest to a guy who's clawed his way from the absolute bottom of football. And I mean that in the politest possible way, because I've seen him play at Maidenhead United before, at my local side, at Maidenhead, has clawed his way up there to the top of the football. It's an inspirational story if you look at it. And then the other one was actually that first goal against Manchester United in the Premier League way back when, in that crazy 5-3 game. Because I think at that point, that was the one that really typified it to me. That Vardy, obviously, when he was in the Championship, wasn't, a shoe-in starter. You had, I think, David Nugent that year putting in the goals, and I think Chris Wood was around the block at that time. Some of these names. But Vardy sat there and he bided his time and he waited and he waited his wait, and he got his chance in the Premier League a few weeks in. And, ever since then, you can't accuse him of, you maybe not the most technically talented player, maybe not the most skillful player, but by God, will he always give you 100% on the pitch? And that is all the minimum I ask for from any player as a fan. If you give the minimum 100%, he's an inspiration in that regard to players who, there are plenty of other players down the food chain that you hear them, do interviews and they say, well, Jamie Vardy's done it. Why can't I do it? And I think that was the sort of story the Premier League needed. Again, someone says we've scored more Premier League goals than Drogba, has less Premier League winners' medals and Champions League medals than Drogba, but and less Champions League goals than Didier Drogba, but we'll let that one slide. And, I think ultimately, I think he's going to be a massive, someone says we had some bloke called Kane, but what's he won? I mean, exactly. Jamie Vardy, I think ultimately when he retires, he's the sort of player that, and I mean, everyone in your squad, I'm sure from the league title win you could argue for a statue for all of them. But I think if there's a player that typifies the rise of Leicester City, it's Jamie Vardy. He's not flashy, he's not showy, he's not, a la-di-da, look at me, but he works and works and works. And as long as, he does that, I mean, I think he's been injured for a lot this season, but I think he's got 15, 16 goals in all competitions. To me, that's priceless. And that to me would be the only worry, I think, as a Leicester fan, is that Vardy at some point will hang up his boots. I'm sure he'll try and go on for as long as possible because he won't want the ride to end. But, until that happens, Vardy will perennially be one of those threats. You will look at it and you will see, I look at Vardy every time on the team sheet and think, oh, God, I hope, one of our defenders doesn't slip over or there isn't a loose ball over the top, because Vardy will be in there and 99 times out of 10 he'll be fine in the bottom corner.
Yep. Rob, let's get to Chelsea-Leicester then. Tomorrow night at the Bridge. Will you be there?
Unfortunately not tomorrow. I'm there on Sunday, but unfortunately I'm having the evening off tomorrow, mainly due to work reasons.
Okay. Let's talk about last time round then. You beat us 3-0 at the King Power Stadium in the Premier League. Could have been about 10-0. When Leicester turned up. About 4 offsides, I remember.
It was a strange one.
Through that game, how has things changed since that win against Leicester? I mean, you guys were top of the league. People said Chelsea could go and win the league this season. They look incredible under Thomas Tuchel. What's changed, Rob? Ben
Chilwell got injured. I know you probably won't like being reminded of it, but Ben Chilwell came to Chelsea and won the European Cup, and he was in the form of his life at the start of the season. I think he was going into that game having scored something like 5 in 6 from fullback. And been getting a ton of assists as well. He played really well in that game. I think he had a goal disallowed for offside in that one. He played really well. I remember he got an assist from Rudiger's sort of goal. Kante did what Kante always seems to do, which is score against Leicester. It's bizarre. He only seems to score against you and Manchester United, and he always looks very embarrassed when he does it. I've never quite, it's a weird one because I don't think I'd almost like to see Kante celebrate a goal. But the problem is I think he's too embarrassed to do it. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where I think, Leicester, I think this was a Conference League game on the Thursday in the group stage, and you just didn't turn up on the day.
No.
I was a bit surprised because it was I view the King Power as a bit of a bear pit. And I think, rightly is described as that because there is a great atmosphere in the King Power. But it was very flat that day. I do remember that.
It's been flat all season.
Yeah, I think there's been discontent, this season, obviously. But I think, you were in a bit of a rut and there was sort of debates, what's the match, should the manager go, etc. And it seemed ridiculous a few months after, you'd won the FA Cup and had a great season last year. But that's the nature of football. As soon as you win something, people start demanding you win more and more. But yeah, it was a weird sort of game. I mean, I think it was the sort of game that showed you, A, why Chelsea can be competitive, and also showed you why Chelsea are now struggling, because there was a lack of depth in key positions. I think that was the game Ruben Loftus-Cheek came on in the midfield for the first time in the season. Ziyech and Pulisic, I think, also came on. But even then, we were being profligate in front of goal. Offside goals aside, we missed a hatful of chances from open play. And it was pretty clear that the wing-backs were really important. And without the proper wing-backs in the sort of Arsenal. I mean, in general, the atmosphere at the King Power is good. I will say the King Power is when it's rocking, it's on form, it's one of the best stadiums in the league, along with Selhurst Park and I'd say Molineux. But at various times this season, they've all been flat for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was one of those games. I think around then was when our season peaked. We played you, and then we played Juventus a few days later and destroyed them 4-0 at Stamford Bridge. That could have been 10-0 as well. And at that point, Ben Chilwell got injured, and it's just slowly been a downhill slide since then.
Yep. Last 5 then, we've beat you once, drawn 2, lost 2. I mean, it's been one of them games. I mean, last season, the FA Cup win after that one. I mean, Rudiger lost his head. And then over the Daniel Amati situation, Perez could have got Leicester back in the game at a draw.
Oh, I can still see that Jose Perez missing my head, actually. Sometimes it occasionally because that was the first game back with fans at Stamford Bridge after COVID, and I remember the atmosphere there, even with 10,000, was better than it's been at any time this season or most of the times in the last 5 years, because there were fans there that wanted to be there supporting the side. Could be worse. You could have Singer beer. Trust me, that's that's reason enough for me to want an ownership change.
Right, Rob, let's have a look at foot in both camps then. I picked out 3 players. Let's talk about the first one, N'Golo Kante, signed for Chelsea for £35 million in 2016. How has N'Golo got on at Chelsea? I mean, I know he scored some quite good goals against Leicester. Talk to me about N'Golo's time. World Cup winner, Champions League winner. He's won it all, hasn't he, Rob?
Premier League winner, FA Cup winner. I don't think he's added the Carling Cup to his collection yet, but I think he can probably be without that one in the Community Shield. I can't say. I mean, he's had by his standards, a poor season this year. But when you consider the standards that Kante set for himself, any season where he's not hitting a 9 out of 10 every game is a poor season. An unbelievable player. We'll just rob you blind on that one. Lesson to not release clauses and anything. I remember actually, Kante's first game at Chelsea, the game against West Ham at Stamford Bridge, and it was a 2-1 win to Chelsea. Yeah, Costa scored the late one, but I was there live, and I remember just watching Kante and Matic just hoovering everything up. Conte in that game actually played a 4 at the back for the first time, for a long, long time, and then would quickly get rid of it. But Kante sat in front of the defence with Matic, I think it was, and just hoovered absolutely everything up that game, and West Ham did nothing because of Conte. And I looked at him and thought, there was nothing he sort of, I was looking at this and thinking, Christ, that's going to be some signing. I don't know if Kepa will play tomorrow, to be honest. I really don't know. I think we will rotate a little bit because the cup final at the weekend. But yeah, Conte, I mean, you can't really ask for much more. He's been, the best midfielder in the world in his position for several years. He's gone from being, 10 years ago when Vardy was signed for you, he was playing, I think, in the 5th tier in France. 10 years later, we talk about him as one of the best players of all time. I mean, there's no words, I think, really to describe him. He's just an unbelievable player. If he does leave Chelsea this summer, he'll leave, to an absolute standing ovation. Is a wonderful person, outside of football as well, incredibly humble, and typifies, I think, what we like to see in players as well. So, nothing more I can sort of say other than thank you very much.
Next one, Danny Drinkwater.
I mean, there you go. If you want to look at the example of being fleeced, I think you got the revenge on Daniel Drinkwater. Yeah, I mean, I've separately been on the podcast and sort of said that Kante basically wanted a midfielder at the time, and he kept going down his list, and the club kept saying no, and eventually it got to Drinkwater. And from what I understand, a bid went. I believe he does, yes. A bid went in for Drinkwater, and the club didn't expect it to be accepted. And then another one, went in, and it kept happening on deadline day. And eventually, the money just got ridiculous. Drini Esther, as I've lovingly christened him, has 3 memorable moments at Chelsea. Number 1 was scoring a worldly volley against Stoke, against Jack Butland. Number 2, this is my personal favourite of all of them, is watching him fall over while warming up in the Europa League. And number 3 is watching him very, very shamelessly holding the FA Cup after not playing a minute in the FA Cup campaign. Yeah. At the end of the day, I feel like it was a bad move for all parties. What I've been told off the pitch, Drinkwater isn't the most avid of professionals. Let's go with that phraseology. He's been on loan at Reading this year. He's out of contract this summer. I hope wherever he ends up, he gets back to playing football and focusing on football again. There's clearly a decent player in there. He will forever have more Premier League winners' medals than Steven Gerrard. So there's one accolade for him. I think, ultimately, that was revenge for N'Golo Kante, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Yes, that was the year you brought Ross Barkley as well, wasn't it? With Daniel Drinkwater. I think you wanted one, but you ended up with both.
Yeah, that's I mean, I feel like the combined fees for all of those is probably what Kante was actually worth. So that's that probably is where we are right off the book value.
Right, then the next one, Ben Chilwell. Let's talk about him. He believed that playing against Leicester in the FA Cup final was bigger than the Champions League. Talk to me about Ben Chilwell. I mean, Leicester fans, some of them are not even fond of Ben Chilwell. They believed he stopped playing after the last 10 games of the season. He'd stopped playing. He started having a laugh with the Chelsea players when we got knocked out of the FA Cup and that. He obviously wanted to move to Chelsea, pretended he was injured, left, right and centre. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the summer comes and he moves to Chelsea. Talk to me about Chilwell's career at Chelsea.
Now, again, this is one thing. Firstly, for one thing I will say with Chilwell is one thing I will always respect with Ben Chilwell. He's one of the footballers that's really honest about his mental health and does admit that he's had problems with it in the past. I'm not going to say that Ben Chilwell's got a Champions League medal. I'm sure he's not thinking about that anymore. He made it pretty clear in his post-match Champions League interview that he didn't regret the choice. I was always a massive fan of Ben Chilwell. This goes back to when he was on loan. And I said a long, long time ago when he was on loan, I said, Ben Chilwell is going to be in England international soon. And he came back to Leicester and had that year when you won the league where he was sort of in and out of the side and it looked like, he might not displace Christian Fuchs. And then sort of the next year, I think Fuchs got injured. Chilwell sort of stepped in and started flying. Chilwell to me is a really, really good footballer. He's a very good modern fullback. He can defend well. He can tackle really well. He's got a very good eye for the pass. And what I think has really improved since coming to Chelsea is his attacking attributes. His crossing's got a lot better. He does seem to have learned, enrolled in the Marcus Alonso school of shooting as well, from left back, which is sort of always a helpful sort of bonus. And at the beginning of the season, he was playing really, really well. Obviously, the ACL injury is a blow. It will take a bit of time to come back from, but I'm conscious, that arguably pound for pound, when he was playing last year, there wasn't a better left back in Europe, especially towards the end of the Champions League campaign. And if Chelsea can get him back to that level again, then him and Reece James on the opposite sides. I mean, Chilwell, I think, is going to be 24, 25. They're still so young. You potentially got your position sorted for the next sort of decade.
Yep. Rob, let's talk about injury news then, ahead of the clash at the Bridge. Who's out for Chelsea then?
Okay, so Timo Werner's definitely out. He's done a hamstring injury. Kai Havertz is a question mark. Andreas Christensen is out due to unknown factors. Tuchel talked about it today and said it will become clear in due time. It sounds like it might be a mental health issue. So again, if it is, I hope he gets all the help he needs. Callum Hudson-Odoi is out until the end of the season due to an ACL flare-up. Ben Chilwell is out till the end of the season due to an ACL flare-up. I think Marcus Bettinelli, I think they said he's ill, so you might not get to see him on the bench. But other than that, I think everyone else is fit. There was question marks over Mateo Kovacic because his ankle was still swollen up like a balloon. But other than that, I think it was, pretty much the squad as played at the weekend.
Yep. The only one for Leicester, I believe, is injured is Hamza Chowdhury.
Someone mentioned Ryan Bertrand as well.
Well, Ryan Bertrand, he's out to the end of the season. Wilf's out to the end of the season. Next one, then, team selection, Rob. What are your 11 then going into this one? Will there be any changes?
I really don't know because, I think there will be changes. I really don't know because there might be, one or two sort of players that come in maybe from the academy. The under-18s won the Premier League Cup a couple of weeks ago, including Charlie Webster, Harvey Vale, Jude Soonsup-Bell, who've been in and around the first. Yeah, I mean, Timo Werner and the VAR is probably the biggest, that's probably the biggest, rivalry in the Chelsea squad, Timo Werner and the VAR official. But yeah, I mean, I think it would probably be something like, I imagine Mendy will be in goal today. I think it might be Kepa for the weekend, but I imagine it'll probably be Edouard Mendy in goal. The back three, probably going to be Azpilicueta, Rudiger, and if Thiago Silva's not fit, maybe Trev Chalobah coming in. Wing backs, Reece James, and I imagine Marcus Alonso, although it's possible Kennedy or Saul Niguez might play there. Midfield will be Ruben Loftus-Cheek and N'Golo Kante. And then the front three, I'm going to predict some rotation because of the nature of it being the squad. I think Lukaku will be the main number 9. I think on the wings, you'll probably see Christian Pulisic maybe on the left and Hakim Ziyech on the right, although it might be, Harvey Vale on the left if they decide to give him sort of some minutes. Charlie Webster can also play in the front three. Tuchel did say, he will look to give opportunities to young players, and with this game effectively being a bit of a dead rubber, there's a good chance to do that.
Yeah, I think for Leicester, Schmeichel's going to come back in. James Justin, Johnny Evans, Fofana, Timothy Castagno, or if Justin's not going to play, then it'll be Ricardo. Midfield 4, Barnes, Dewsbury Hall, Tillemans, and who else? Actually, that'll be a midfield 3. And then we'll put Maddison in there. We'll put Barnes up top. With Vardy and who else played at the weekend? I'm not sure, to be honest, but we'll just go with that.
Usually all Brighton turns up somewhere in there.
Yeah, all Brighton. I believe Tillemans and could be on. Is obviously on his way out, isn't he? What is your thoughts on the Tillemans situation, Rob?
It's a difficult one because I'll put on my neutral hat on. Firstly, footballing careers are finite and players maybe have 10 years at the top. While I applaud players for spending, long periods of time at one club, ultimately I don't feel they should be tied down. And, if their contract is running down, they have the right, I think, to look elsewhere. I think Yuri Tillemans is probably looking at Leicester and thinking, what more am I going to achieve? Because, as amazing as the Premier League title win was in, when it happened, it was an exception to the norm rather than a current rule. The FA Cup win obviously was a sort of nice thing. And I was a little surprised last summer that Tillemans didn't leave after the FA Cup win. I think, his stock was incredibly high. I think there was maybe perhaps a fear of selling him at that point. And sort of, also the fact the market was recovering from COVID, there maybe wasn't, the money on the market. As a result of that, you now get the situation, and I'll sort of move more into a fan sort of side of thought now, where he's come into it, and I've got no doubt someone's spoken in his ear and turned his head. Like the way Tillemans is talking, the way his agent is talking, it sounds like there's a move lined up. I will say that if he goes to a club like Arsenal, then he's not making a step up. I don't think that's a step up. If he goes to, say, Real Madrid or to Liverpool, I can understand it. That's just, I don't know if he's in link. I know he's been linked with Real Madrid. I don't know about Liverpool, but that I would understand. If he comes to Chelsea, I could see why you could argue that could be a step up as well. But I think if he goes to a Manchester United at the state they're in at the moment, or say Borussia Dortmund, for example, it's not really a step up. Now, I think he's coming to 25, 26. Tillemans now. He seems to have been around for a while, or maybe Again, I remember him as being that cheap signing on Football Manager I used to make a long time ago. Yeah, he's going to be he's just turned 25. Like, he's coming up now and looking at a move to come and move somewhere in his prime. And so obviously he's thinking he needs to be at a top club during that period. Now, at the end of the day, what I think Leicester need to do is if he wants to go, you say that's fine. You set a price tag for him and someone meets that price tag, because if they want him that much, they meet it. I don't think what Leicester should do is keep him for another year and let him go on a free, because I think that's poor book value. And also then you risk maybe him unsettling the squad, because I think that has perhaps upset the apple cart a little bit in the second half of the season, the fact that everyone knows Tielemans is unsettled. But, I'm sure there will be players out there that can replace him. Again, like I said, Dewsbury Hall in the squad, I think, is already, a similar sort of player. And I think, there's other young players in world football that they could sort of look at and go after. So I wouldn't be that worried. Yeah, I mean, in terms of upping the price, I don't know. Yeah, someone says we don't want players to don't perform. I mean, I will say I'm a little disappointed if it is the case that he has down tools, because I don't think any players have down tools, because the fans, deserve better than that. And I think if he's done that, that's, not great. But ultimately, it is his choice, it is his career, so he's got to be allowed to do that. And I've not got no qualms in saying, there was a Leicester before Yuri Tielemans, there'll be a Leicester after Yuri Tielemans. It's not as if
exactly.
You have to view all transfers like that.
Yeah, the other player I think who were on top of me were Papi Mendy. He'll play tomorrow. That was the player I missed out on. The other 10 I named. Right, Rob, score prediction then for tomorrow before I let you go.
Oh, I don't know. Someone mentioned 2-2 earlier. I could see a 2-2 happening. Like, I feel it will go one or two ways. Either it will be an awful 0-0 draw with no redeeming qualities whatsoever, or both sides will enjoy the fact the pressure's not on and will play free-flowing, attractive football, and we'll see a few goals. Knowing Chelsea, it could be either of those two. But I think both sides will be interested in trying to achieve the respective goal, obviously, of the 3 points. But at the same time, they'll also be aware that their seasons are decided, and it's more of a case of looking forward next year.
Question is then, Rob, the big question: will Chelsea score from a corner?
Oh yeah, I mean, but Rudiger at the back post at some point is inevitable. I mean, it's 100% going to happen.
We've conceded the most in the league, so you've not got to worry.
It wouldn't surprise if that was Rudiger's final goal for Chelsea was a back post corner goal against Leicester. It's the sort of thing that written in the stars.
Guys, get your score predictions in for this one. Right, Rob, thanks for coming on, pal. It's been a pleasure chatting to you again, and I will see you at some point next season. Yeah, definitely. We have to get. And also, before we go, so congratulations on Leicester women staying up as well. I don't think I've had a chance to say it to you subsequently, but at the end of the day, being in the situation that they were at Christmas, staying up is tremendous to the squad, tremendous achievement, and I've got no doubt they'll build on it and continue to, succeed next year. And all I can say is I hope next year when we do play you, you're as generous in front of goal as you were this year. Cheers, mate. Well, we'll see you guys. See you in a bit. Right then, guys. That's Rob from the Chelsea Social, getting a good insight into the Chelsea-Leicester game tomorrow. Great chat with him. Right then, what I want to know is now, before I go, your best Jamie Vardy goal. Which one is it? We've had 10 years of JV9. What is your best moment / your best goal? Is it the Liverpool one in the title winning season? Is it the 11 It's Heaven for Jamie Vardy? Is it the West Brom volley from a Riyad Mahrez ball? Is it the Manchester City one from the cross from Castagna? You tell me, what is the best Jamie Vardy goal? Is it the one where he scored against Spurs, the chip volley? Which one is the best Jamie Vardy goal? Or is it the Jamie Vardy goal in the 5-3 win against Manchester United back in 2014? What is your best Jamie Vardy goal? Get in the comments and let me know. The West Brom one. I'm 5'8" and I think I could score from a corner. His first ever Premier League goal when he arrived. Yep, Andy's gone for the West Brom one. I definitely think my favourite could be the Liverpool volley. Naeem has gone for it's 11. It's 7 for Jamie Vardy. The record-breaking goal. And the Liverpool one. The Liverpool one was just sublime. The ball from Mahrez. Over the top, bang. Finish. What a goal by Jamie Vardy. He's had some great moments in a Leicester shirt, Jamie Vardy, over the last 10 years. Hard to pick one for sure, but there's ones that will also stand out. It could have been the volley. Yeah, like I say, against West Brom, it could be the chip over Aaron Ramsdale from distance for the one against Bournemouth. Hard to pick one from 150. There's a lot. But he's been a great servant, legend, the GOAT of Leicester City Football Club. There'll be no other Jamie Vardy. No one will replace him. He's irreplaceable. He'll be missed when he retires from football. And what a great servant. £1 million from Fleetwood in 2012. And what a story it's been from the bottom to the top. Worked his way all the way up. Premier League winner, FA Cup winner, Championship winner, Community Shield winner. He's done everything, Jamie Vardy. And what a credit for the club to the club. He's definitely paid back that £1 million, but fantastic. And you can't thank him enough. So yeah, thank you for a great 10 years, Jamie Vardy. Hopefully many more goals to come. Before we wave goodbye. But we don't want to think about that right now. I think we tried to offload to him on loan. They rejected him. Yeah, exactly. Chat, yeah, get banged. That was his motto. Right, guys, I'm off. Please smash a like. Please share. Please subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube tonight and you haven't subscribed already, please go and do so. Please smash a like if you're watching on Facebook. If you've enjoyed the show, it's been a great chat. Match preview / talking about Mr. JV9. Name it the stand. Jamie Vardy Stadium. Do you know what? There needs to be statue. There needs to be a statue for Jamie Vardy when he does leave. Goal against Crystal Palace, the one where he did the old bird celebration. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Really hope you've enjoyed the show. If you can, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, wherever you can find us at Leicester Fan TV. Please go and drop us a follow. Thank you to these guys, all the sponsors, ADT, Hollogram, Tiger, Pizzeria, Pukka Pies, Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, the Foxes Arms, Newby Co and Hope Against Cancer. Thank you to all the guys that sponsor us here at Leicester Fan TV. And thank you to you guys. The season is nearly upon us as it comes to an end. 2 games left. The last away game tomorrow of the season and the final home game on Sunday. Go and back the boys. Go and show your appreciation for them. And yeah, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's watched Leicester Fan TV this season. It's been great. Thank you to everybody who's smashed a like, commented, shared, got involved. And thank you to everybody who subscribed as well. So thank you guys for getting involved in every show. By the fans, for the fans. Last few comments in. Don't forget the England goals yet. Exactly. I personally enjoyed the flag celebration, not because of the politics, but he took it right out. Peace. Yeah, so guys, this is Jack from Leicester Fan TV saying good night. And I will see you either at the game tomorrow at Stamford Bridge. If you're at the game, come and say hello. Or if you don't see me, come and say hello against Southampton at home. Up the Foxes, up the City. This is Jack from Leicester Fan TV saying good night. And come on, Leicester!
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Pizzeria. Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. Make sure to follow us on all of our social channels at Leicester Fan TV. Visit our website, leicesterfantv.com.